3.
What's up, everybody? I'm DJ Sixsmith. Welcome into the Sit Down. It's a pleasure to be joined today by Joel McHale. Joel, what's up, man? How are you?
Nice to see you, DJ Sixsmith.
What do you got on the mug there?
This?
Yeah.
Methamphetamine?
Only the best, right?
That's some coffee. It's my 12-17 cup of coffee. I've had 2 today, and I like to get my heart rate up at 160 by dinner time. So I'm well on my way.
How many cups a day you usually do?
This is basically 4 shots of espresso. It's an espresso machine, and I do 16 probably shots. I've grown up drinking so much coffee, and I worked at a coffee espresso place in Seattle where I grew up, and it's just never stopped. But Danny Pooty from Community, he will put you to shame as far as how much coffee he drinks. Yeah.
How much does he do?
I would say twice that much. Wow. It's impressive. I don't get jittery from coffee. Maybe once in a while, but it's never really affected my sleep, and it doesn't, it's never been adverse. I love it so much. It's the taste of coffee. I loved it since the day I tried it. So, you can't stop me.
I'm right there with you on that one. And
how much do you drink?
I usually do 2 cups a day, maybe 3 if I'm pushing it. But yeah, 2 cups will get the job done.
I like having a cup like right before dinner. That's one of my favorite ones. It's good times.
Yeah, I'm usually a morning guy, and then like somewhere in the afternoon. So I just had a coffee before this. So it's like 2 o'clock, right around there, get me through the rest of the day. I'm good to go.
And everyone's always telling me to drink water constantly. I just want to know, our ancestors, were they drinking 2 gallons of water a day?
No way.
Were they just be like, sorry, hold up. Before we, I don't know, invade this village, I'm going to stick my head in this river and drink enough water that I'm going to pee for the next 6 hours.
Yeah, they weren't really thinking about those things.
No. Well, how are the Yankee years and the Range?
Well, the Range was a really good book. I read that one during quarantine. Yankee Years is my wife's book. Haven't checked that one out yet. But
you haven't checked out your okay.
Most of these books I've been trying to make my way through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about you? You reading anything good these days? Watching anything good?
I don't read. No, I'm dyslexic, so I listen to books constantly. I've been listening a lot to Jack Reacher books by Lee Childs. I read a book called The Scar by China Melville, and I read like White Fragility, I'm Still Here, The New Jim Crow, and boy, I've been listening to a lot of books. And I have a 15-year-old. He's listening to a book called. He's also dyslexic. You're welcome, son. It's called Dark Matter and the Dinosaurs, which is about dark matter.
Yeah, I got White Fragility back here too. That one was pretty eye-opening, to say the least.
Yeah, it's great. It's good stuff.
Really. And I'll tell you what, the Twilight Zone, pretty good watch as well. And I watched your episode this morning, and I got to say, Orson Rudd jumping into that whole world, it was pretty trippy. What was it like entering the Twilight Zone for you?
Well, it was a dream come true that I now get to say that I was on the Twilight Zone. I can't believe it. I'm not kidding. When it was like, oh, you're going to be, I was like, this is amazing. So I grew up watching every episode, and then I watched the movie The Twilight Zone with, of course, in 1980, I think it was. And I was just and the 2 guys who directed the episode, I love them, Aaron Moorhead and Doug Benson. They are amazing directors, and so I was thrilled. That was a very. I'm going to make sure I got there. I was just thrilled to be a part of it. We got to shoot for 2 weeks in Vancouver, and I love it up there. So it was right before COVID. So I look back on it in a very romantic and rosy way.
What was most fascinating about that episode? Because it's like, hey, we may see a new human species here. There's a lot of crazy things going on underwater. What really
I just
piqued
want
your
to point out
interest?
that I called Justin Benson, Doug Benson, the comedian. What a douche. Me, douche, not Doug Benson or Justin Benson. So Justin Benson, excuse me.
There you go.
They are now become friends. So I'll never hear the end of this one. But no, I mean, CBS pulled out all the stops, and the stage they built, which was elevated because it was a lot of it took place underwater. It was incredible. They must have spent, I was like, they're spending $1 million an hour on this thing. It looked beautiful. So I was like, oh, this compared to the budget on Community, I was like, this is bananas. This is wonderful. It was great.
When you think about some of the original episodes of the Twilight Zone, we were talking late 50s, early 60s. You mentioned the movie in the 80s. Like, it's pretty fascinating to me, at least, that they have staying power all these years later. And it feels like this episode too. Like, you watch it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like, we could still let our minds wander about all the stuff that is going on underneath the sea.
Yeah, I hope you're right, and I hope people are still watching it. I mean, Rod Serling pulled off something that it was like going to the moon, what he pulled off, and the amount of work that he did, and so many that he wrote. I don't know how he got it through, because some of those episodes are damn terrifying. And to think that these was just on in people's homes in the 60s is crazy. And they're really good episodes of, I mean, they hold up because his vision, I mean, he just did not compromise. And I'm sure he had all sorts of struggles with networks and stuff like that, but the product, oh my gosh, it is incredible.
Yeah, you read about people listening to War of the Worlds, way back in the day. Can you imagine like people in their living rooms in the 60s watching this and just being like totally freaked out by everything going on?
Yeah, I can't imagine there must have been so many complaints. Their families sitting down to watch a nice TV show, and the Twilight Zone comes on, like, I'm gonna get out of here. But I think the new version is, it's so well done, and I think the scripts are dynamite, and obviously, just the direction and how it's going with Jordan, and it's just great. So he was there, and he was really cool, and I would do it I would do it again in a New York minute. It was so much fun.
What was the coolest part about working with somebody like Jordan Peele?
Going to dinner with him. He's very easygoing, and that he's this sonic boom of a genius in there, and you're like, yeah, we're just hanging out. But he clearly, his touch is on it, and which is great. He's clearly overseeing it, and in a great way. And I would jump to work with him again. I would jump right here in this chair. I would jump out of it through this window. See?
There you go. Boom. You mentioned Community before, and obviously budget-wise, a little bit different. TV landscape was much different over 10 years ago. What do you remember, like, just as you're about to start Community and getting that going?
When we were just starting?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I remember thinking with all those things, I knew the cast was really good, and I knew the script was really good, and I just hoped that it was going to make it. Because when you make pilots, the chances of you actually getting picked up are pretty small, and then the chances of having, getting on the air is small, and then the chances of getting out of your first season is smaller. So it's like hitting a grand slam in Yankee Stadium in your wife's book. Behind you. It's like hitting a grand slam 2 times, each up to bat, and it's hard to pull off. And there's 1,000 different things that have to go into it for things to work. And I was just one small piece of it, and I knew it was good when we were making it. I'm like, this writing is freaking great. And it would be a shame if a show this well written with this cast were to not make it. And it did make it, thank God. And when I first was starting out, I was like, I know I'm in something good, and I want to remain in something good.
What's it been like in today's world with streaming going on, like people watching on Netflix, people watching on Hulu? Because it obviously, like, it got huge traction when it was on TV. It takes this long and winding route, you know, it goes to Yahoo for a second, it's on streaming. What's the reception like now?
Well, thank God for Netflix, because they put us on, and I didn't even know it was happening. I think I got like an email saying, hey, it's going to Netflix. And you don't think, I mean, it's great. You go, terrific. But it really showed, so many people have contacted me going like, hey, caught your show. And I'll be like, it was on 10 years ago. And they're like, well, I'm just so glad to discover it. I was like, it's been on Hulu this whole time. But it clearly showed that Netflix is winning, I guess. And I'm so happy that people have rediscovered it, because I was so proud of that show making it, and I knew it was great, and Dan Harmon is a genius. And so I'm just really glad that, you know, it has a new life. It's weird and wonderful.
What else would surprise people about the experience? You mentioned the budget, like, you know, great cast, great script, but what else don't we talk about enough when it comes to Community?
I mean, the narrative of us, we were always the underdogs on Thursday night. And this is what made me mad, was that we were always like, oh, well, you know, ratings struggling. And our ratings were pretty dang good, because we were up against the Big Bang Theory, which made no sense. And then we would always give Parks and Rec a really nice number for them to build on, because it was after Big Bang Theory. And then when Parks and Rec was in our spot, they would always get lower ratings, and no one ever, believe me, I love Parks and Rec, and I'm not at all saying we were better than them. I'm just saying our ratings were always decent, and the narrative from reporters was we were always struggling. And so I'd always say that to them. I was like, no, we're doing great. We're doing fine. This is you guys. And look at the numbers, and just for more than 2 seconds, and you'll see that we're doing just fine. And it was a weird thing, because that became part of the folklore, that people were just like, what the hell? It would be like if some story about me being like a shoplifter or something got out. I'd be like, no, I hear that he like loves going into Macy's and taking stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So yes, it's our Richard Gere gerbil story.
And also just watch the show. Like, it's a great show. And then if that show was just to streaming like 10 years later, we're not even having a ratings conversation. There's no narrative that's being built about that.
No.
People just focus on the shows now, and that's the way that it should be.
It's great. That truly is the great equalizer is the show good, or you find out if your show is good or not by viewers a lot of the time.
Definitely. How about the soup for you? That was another fun little chapter for you, and obviously you did a ton of those episodes. What are you most proud of with that experience?
That was just damn fun, and that's really how I kind of cut my teeth in being on television. And the show started off we were Friday nights at 10 o'clock, which I know young people, if anybody's watching this, it doesn't even compute to them that a show is on at a certain point. But at that point, there was not much streaming. There was no streaming. It was Netflix was just a DVD exchange program. And it's really weird to think about, but because we started in 2005.
Wow.
And no one watched us for a year, and then all of a sudden they were, and we weren't a ratings bonanza, but we did pretty well for E. And it was so much fun, and I feel like I really grew up, and I learned how to be comfortable on television. And I'm so proud of some of the jokes we told and some of the stuff we said, and I think also that reality TV was still in its kind of Wild West days, where they were putting shows on that would never be on TV now, like Being Bobby Brown, or Britney Spears' show with Kevin Federline, where they just gave them video cameras and then just edited their crazy times together. That stuff doesn't happen anymore. There's too many publicists that are stopping it, and there's too much liability. So yeah, no, those people are my family. It was so much fun, and I look back on that with great affection. And I know that they have a new version, so I wish that the show is. I think there's always a place for a show like that, so I wish them very well.
So in addition to all the acting, the comedy, football is obviously a part of your backstory. So if I'm talking about Joe McHale, the football player, like who's your comp in the NFL? Like who's the guy that has the game that you used to have back in the day?
Well, I was a terrible football player, and I never made it past 2 years of college football. So if anybody plays like me right now, then they're going to be definitely cut off the team. If they've not already.
I mean, 2 years of college football, that's something to be proud of. You got to hold your hat on that. No,
I ran away screaming, crying. So I was like, don't hurt me, don't hurt me, don't hurt me. You could tell when I was playing, you could tell who was going to the NFL very clearly, because even the really good college players compared to the guys that were on their way, it was a huge difference. So, like the guy, I was a tight end, and the two guys ahead of me went to the NFL because they are two of the best athletes I've ever seen. Mark Bruner and Ernie Conwell. And Ernie Conwell, he was the backup, and he was 21 years old, and he was benching 500 pounds, squatting 1,000, and he ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. And there's a guy who's 300 pounds running that fast. And he was the scariest athlete. He was the backup. And Mark Bruner, who was like 6'7", also 300 pounds, he was a freaking field marshal out there. He knew what he was doing. He just so smart, so good. And we did a 2 tight end offense with the Huskies, and when I would see them out there, I'd be like, watch out, they're gonna run you over. And they did. They just ran guys over, and it was really fun. I really learned how to work hard in football. That's my greatest takeaway from that was these guys were working towards a goal, and I was like, oh, this is how hard you have to work to get something done, or get something accomplished, or get something you want. And so I always took that to heart. But I see those guys sometimes, and they all work for the NFL or a team, and I'll just be like, you guys were terrifying. I'm so glad you didn't kill me. So,
how good were those teams back in the day?
Well, I joined the team after we won the national championship. So we were very good. We won Pac-10. At that time, it was Pac-10. No, I wasn't. I was on scout.
Right.
So I wasn't a factor on that team in any way. You helped
prepare the team. At least you had some sort of college football.
I was basically a mascot.
Basically like a tackling dummy, right?
Levels. It was great. I'm so lucky I don't have any permanent injuries, because I saw guys breaking their knees and busting their hands and smashing their elbow. I mean, I saw these horrific injuries, and I was just like, I got so lucky. So I can still run, and I'm very, very thankful.
Yeah, some of these guys can't even walk, or some of their limbs. Yeah,
there was guys that couldn't walk, and they were in their early 20s. They had no cartilage left in their knees. And, you think when you're that age, you don't really think about it. It's just a bummer. And then I don't know what that's like. When you get to your 40s and 50s, that's knee replacement city over and over again. So, and that was before anything was talked about CTE. That. No one talked about head injuries. No one talked about that stuff. So there was no protocols for any of that stuff. So thankfully it's changed.
Definitely. So of all the things you've done, I'm sure the last few months with the Tiger King special has been pretty interesting for you. What was it like, get in the middle of that thing, especially the way that it blew up during the quarantine year?
Well, I was a last minute add-on because that thing was already taking the world over, and Netflix just sent me an offer. Like, hey, do you want to host the special? And I was like, yes, I do. And Ted Sarandos, I'm sure I was probably his idea, is my guess. And he's always been great to me. So thank you, Ted. And so I was just kind of an addendum to the end of it. But it was, I think it's the most popular documentary of all time. And I had nothing to do with it, but it was incredibly well made. And it shined a light into a culture that is right under our noses and no one knew about, really. And Joe Exotic is one of the most fascinating people, albeit a narcissist.
Yep.
And it was just crazy. And people gave me such shit for asking the question, do you think Joe should be in jail? And I didn't think that was going to be the controversy, but people were like, oh man, they're really hating you for asking that. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's a necessary question.
I was like, I don't know what, I'm trying, I was like, okay, yeah. So it's one of those things where I'm like, did I say something wrong? And then I kind of checked myself. I was like, no. So it was, I'm glad it was right when COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody knew what was going to happen and how the virus was being transmitted. So they showed up in like hazmat suits to set up the camera in my house, and then they just ran away. And everything was covered in bags and everything. It was, it was just like, do we wipe down our groceries? Nobody knew, and it was right at the beginning. And they wanted to get that. We almost got Joe on camera, but he was being moved. There was a COVID scare in the prison. So, and Netflix wanted to get the special out, so we didn't get him. We didn't really need him. We had so many people, but he would have been interesting to talk to. But he wouldn't have been on camera. It would have just been a phone call.
Well,
crazy.
One of the crazier experiences of your career, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Last Dance didn't ask me to do the follow-up.
MJ, come on, man. Hit up Joel.
What the hell, MJ? Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for hanging out. Love your work, and stay safe, and we'll talk to you down the road, all right?
Yeah, watch Twilight Zone and go watch the movie Becky.